him. And sometimes it's just vice, and this can be something that can go on throughout your life. Where now, you know what? I'm gonna stop doing what I want to do for my wife, and then my appetite grow for her. Not go back to giving her appetite. And then he said he got tired of it to a degree, not tired, but like, okay, that's enough. There are men out there that pushes it away.
Well, all right. So in the case of physical appetite, that is something where we could arguably suggest, yeah, there might be room for self-adjustment. Okay. But there are some things where I would dare argue that people are, in fact, stepping across the line. And if they are stepping across, let's take it out of home and let's look at it on the job. If we are to recognize that some folks are just working your last nerve, how do you deal with anger in those kinds of things without passive aggressive, we've sort of talked about things where we have to make a change, but is it always us when people do us wrong that have to make the change?
If I can respond to that, for me, I'm not going to use the word mastered. I'm not going to say mastered at such a young age. I'm not going to ever say mastered, but I would definitely say, compared to a lot of other things, anger has become a lot easier over the years for me to rein in, to harness, and tame, really. I used to, just be upset. I remember working at Taco Bell, and I was assistant manager. Man, we didn't make time. I never forget. I punched this T in so hard. I swear I broke my wrist, and I never went to the doctor, and it was just what I'm saying, just because we didn't make time. And I would just get so angry, so mad, so short-tempered. I hear that from people, you're short-tempered, you're this, you're that, whatever. But now I've slowly begun to realize, regardless of anything that we do, and it kind of draws a lot from what Nola was saying, everybody has a reason for why they do what they do. Now, at the base of it, like, I know you said, we were talking about, the sex one time, if the wife doesn't do this and do that, and she knows that there's an obligation. There's some women that just, quite frankly, are not very good. Period. Their reason is not good. They do not have a good reason. They simply want to watch the world burn. They simply want to watch you squirm and die and beg for it. And they're wrong, and they'll be punished for that. But, for the most part, people have a legitimate, decent reason for their own, action. So, if I'm, like you said, you got the coworker who's, they're literally just working their own nerves, or they went and stole your idea and gave it to the boss to use it as their own idea. They had a reason for that. As crazy as that is, hey, I thought I actually came up with this in my mind, and then I saw you have it on paper. So I thought that you took it from me somehow when we were discussing it, or I thought I mentioned it, and so I took my own idea back. And that's what I was thinking. It may sound silly or crazy or backwards or whatever, but they had an idea. They had a reason. So all that to say, from now, when we go somewhere and somebody forgets food, which just happened not too long ago, somebody forgets food, or somebody gets upset, or somebody's short, there is a reason they are doing that. And that's why it keeps me from getting upset. There's a reason.
Okay.
And I want to say this.
Go ahead.
I want to say this. And to answer your question, sometimes when we sit back and we look at the big picture, 9 times out of 10, there is no big picture. It's something that you already have lying dormant, and somebody just triggered something, and then you go ahead and react to it. Now, you said earlier that what if there was a coworker that was frustrating you and getting on your nerves? When I was in school, middle school, there was this little kid that used to always get bullied, and people used to punch on him and punch on him. He would never cry. Only thing he did, and it changed my life forever, was just tell them, I love you. And the more he told them that he loved them, the more they beat on him. But they beat on him. I started learning when I came into crack that they beat on this kid because they didn't like him telling them that he loved them. And eventually, his love won them because they got tired of beating on him because they got tired of hearing him say, I love you. So with that coworker or that boss, sometimes you just have to say, you know what, I love you, regardless. And believe it or not, love is just like light. It's going to always break through the darkness. Always. So
what I'm hearing you guys say is, first of all, that At no time should you respond to frustration. At no time should you judge the person as an idiot and decide to address them in a more direct way. I'm going to go ahead and lean completely in the opposite direction on this one. And I'm going to proffer this thought. I dare say that the nice guy approach won't and doesn't work. I'm going to go completely opposite and say, I believe that we should rebuke someone who has either unintentionally or intentionally stepped across the line. And I'm going to tell you why I say that. The first reason is there are times where people do not know that they are out of place. They don't know. And until you tell them, they won't know. Either they're socially awkward or they're incorrect in their upbringing, or for whatever reason, they don't understand when they are out of place. So sometimes you have to take a more assertive approach and say, you are out of line. I had a case in point. Patient comes in. Patient has a wife who comes in and starts asking inappropriate questions of me. And I said to the first, I was very kind and sort of ignored the question and continued to focus on the care of her husband, who was the person who needed to be addressed. And she continued to press on with inappropriate questions. So I stopped the care of her husband, who needed my attention, and I turned to her and I said very clearly, I do not discuss my personal life. I am here to serve your husband's visual needs. Period. Until she heard me come directly, she continued her probing inappropriate questions, and I believe that my frustration would have continued to become worse and worse, and she would have continued to stand on that button. Now, until I told her, she's not required to make a different choice. But the moment that I've told her that she's across the line, she has the opportunity to either be offended or she can recognize where she's standing and step back. But if we don't set proper boundaries, I think we bear some responsibility in how people step on us. So I'm going to go ahead in the opposite direction on that one. And I'm not going to tell her, I love you while you continue to ask me dumb questions. I'm just saying.
You got misconstrued what we're talking about. Okay. Because what I'm saying, I think is the understanding, make sure I'm not caught up too far, is the understanding of someone else's disrespect for me, someone else's being rude to me, is understanding why are they doing those things. Now, we didn't talk about the action. We didn't say a word about the action. I didn't say a word about the action. But understanding. Now, he was, explaining about this other guy's action about the love you. But as far as, somebody understanding why somebody put something bad in my food, this in my food. Oh, did I go back to the store and say, excuse me, I put the wrong food in my bag. Did I go back to the store? Absolutely. Did I speak with the manager? After I had tried to get the problem resolved with the employee and that didn't go anywhere, and I was kind and nice, and they weren't rude or anything like that, but they were kind and nice as well, but they couldn't get my problem resolved, so I went to the manager. Getting facing the situation, walking at it, taking it dead on, I don't think that's the problem. That's not what I guess the discussion was before. I think we're all in agreement with that. It was the fact of, why are they doing this? Why are these people upset? Now, what you said, absolutely, just a small antecedent. I went to a burger joint, asked for 5 biscuits. It was early in the morning. Asked for 5 biscuits because they were 50 cents each. Went home. There were only 2 biscuits. So, no big deal. I'll just drive back up there. I'm not upset, even though we were all excited and ready to eat. Whatever. So I drove back up there. Hey, ma'am, I would like to get 3 more biscuits. You guys left them out of my bag. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Breakfast is over. We can't give biscuits anymore. Oh, okay, not a big deal. I tell you what, just give me money back, or just give me something equivalent to the value. Well, sir, your biscuits were only 50 cents each. We don't have anything that's 50 cents each. So, okay, I'll just get a refund and buy something else. You know what? I looked around my car. I forgot my debit card at home. So not only can I not get the biscuit, I can't get my sandwich because the biscuits were cheap. So basically you're saying you're going to give me, $1.50 back and send me on my merry way after your mistake. I can't get, what I want. So anyway, long story short, went into the manager. In my opinion, that was unacceptable. Went into the manager. Again, very nice. Hey, your customer service reps are great. They're fine. I just want to know if you can help me out. This is my situation. Hey, guys, make him 5 cheeseburgers right now. Boom. They got on it just like that. So, like you said, had I not addressed it, I'm not just going to oh, I love you, have a good day, I'll take these 2 biscuits. within my 5 family members. I'm not saying being weakness. I'm saying I've got the power. First of all, I know who I am and what I can do and what I can say and who I can talk to. Me being in the bank created some influence. I know who I can talk to. He has a gun. Noah had a gun, a lethal firearm. But because I have that power, the power actually doesn't come from that. It comes from me restraining it. It comes from the knowledge of it and still restraining. So going up and yelling and going off, I can do that, but that's a weak person in my opinion. But like you said, when you turn to this, you know, you hear it once or twice and you turn to this lady and say, hey, listen, blah, blah, blah. You could have been like, beep, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
That's a weak person in my opinion.
Okay.
But that strength and that power, you know, and that managing your anger effectively comes from, hey, you said something to me directly. I'm going to directly ask you not to do it again. You know, and like you said, now you have the option.
Right. And I think assertiveness is absolutely key in this, you know, addressing these issues. But I will go even a step further. And I don't know if you guys will agree with this or not, but I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. I believe the Bible actually supports the notion of, it says, if someone offends thee, rebuke them. Go to them, go to your brother, go to your sister, and rebuke them. Tell them. That means, you know, tell them, I didn't like that. Step off or step back or do this or do that. So that's step one. The second thing is, if they hear you, you have gained a friend. So if that person is willing to understand where they have encroached upon the boundaries of either your sanity or your emotional health, they will understand, okay, I stepped out of line on this one. Let me go ahead and retool this. Let me get myself together because I want this person in my life to, you know, they have meaning, and therefore I will respond kindly to them. The flip side is that you get information on how much they value you. So if you are dealing with them on, you know, in a noble, upright, forthright way, then you have the opportunity for them to reciprocate in kind. If they do not choose to do that, either through misunderstanding or because they do not have a character that is appropriate, then at that point, you can do phase 2, which is take someone else. That way, a witness establishes a truth. So you've got two people who can then address an issue of conflict. And I think that's a really critical point because not everybody responds. And at that point, you are trying your best to find some reconciliation or find some common ground. And I think that that's a critical factor. And I think if we look at it in that way, where we're trying to build relationships as opposed to destroy them, that will be, you know, step 2. And then the third step is, you know, if they choose not to, then you can shun them or you can deal with them in a more assertive fashion by removing them from your circle of associates. I guess the reason why this is such an important topic is because I think oftentimes, well, sometimes I think men may choose not to express when someone, particularly their wives or their significant others, are on their trigger buttons. Because that's where that's where they seem to go when you know, you're trying to deal with life and they will step on that trigger and they will, you know, stay there on that trigger. So the question then becomes, how do you address that in such a way that, someone or your kids, we can get on that topic as well. You know, when your kids are consistently grading that area of your sanity, that doesn't have to be graded. So the question is that something that is simply a matter of personal growth and development, or is that a matter of setting healthy boundaries to address it in a much more, much more direct way? Thoughts?
It's a combination of both of them. You want to have everybody to give you respect, first of all. And when you're dealing with your kids, you know, you have to talk to your kids. The kids, to me, are like a dog. You have to tell your dog what you want it to do, and then you have to, when you give it a command, and then sometimes you can give that command with a sound. You can give that command with a gesture. You can give that command with a look. And that's the same thing you have to do with your kids. When you talk to your kids and you give them that sound, that sit down. There's a sit down and just be calm. There's a sit down and then they look at you and then you give them that look. And they know that after that sit down comes the beating. And so it's the same thing. You know, it's the same thing. What's so funny, man?
Yeah, my question is,
did you said beating?
Yeah,
it's a beating.
Yeah, so we don't want to espouse beating on the show.
I mean, you know,